Oh, there's no question about it. You know, when they signed Kirk Cousins, they were legit playoff contenders. And the two corresponding moves since Kirk Cousins has gotten there with the addition of Judon and Simmons, there's no question. This is a football team that has been slightly below average. Don't pay attention to Stephen A.
Let's just get a screen grab
Kimberly,
of everyone
me
right
and
now.
you. Like, just don't pay attention to that. They've been below average, slightly below average, with relatively poor quarterback play. Kirk Cousins is bringing well above average quarterback play. They're dynamically talented on offense. They got a really good offensive line. Raheem Morris' second run as a head coach, so the experience that he's gained both in his own head coach run, but also under Sean McVay. And Simmons and Judon, while they're older, if those guys are kind of relatively close to what they've been for the past couple seasons, this is a really, really good defense. You pair him, Simmons, and Jesse Bates, that's one of the best safety duos in football. And if Judon could rush the passer with Grady Jarrett, man, this is a complete football team.
Oh, my God. When you look at the Atlanta Falcons, particularly on the offense, we saw a roster. We saw that. Okay, you got London. You got, like you said, you got Ray McLeod. We did all that. They got some guys. John Robinson is no joke. But it all stops when you get to Kirk Cousins. We've lamented how Dak Prescott has 2 playoff victories in 8 seasons as a starter. Who's worse, Dan Orlovsky, in the postseason? Who's worse? It would
I
be
would
Kirk.
imagine you're going to say Kirk Cousins has less.
It would be Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And so for you to sit up there and say, if we're going to, the blasphemy you've just committed, you're forcing me to be nice to the Cowboys. Because I have to look at them and say, if we're going to sit up there and say that they don't really have a legit shot at being in the Super Bowl and stuff like that, they got a better shot at being in the offseason, how are we going to turn around with a team led by Kirk Cousins, assuming he's in the lineup after, his injury management? How are we going to assume that they're going to have so much success, particularly in the postseason? Why would you say something like that? Now, if we had the discussion that they're going to win the South and they're going to be in the playoffs, all right, cool. That division, don't get me started with the NFC South. But that's not what this discussion was about. You're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, and you mentioned potential Super Bowl. Don't you have to win playoff games, which Kirk Cousins has seemed allergic to do?
Yes, you do.
What are you talking about?
Well,
what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the question at the bottom of the screen.
Legit Super Bowl contenders!
The Cowboys are not a good lateral comparison because they've been to the playoffs more than the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, lateral comparison. Lateral comparison. Explain what that means to the average Joe out there, dear Abby Olofsky.
That you think they're side by side.
Please explain to us what that means.
You think that they're side by side, and they're not. The Cowboys have had many more opportunities than the Vikings, and certainly with Kirk.
And so the team that hasn't been relevant enough to have opportunities is suddenly a Super Bowl contender before a damn game is played? What are you talking about? Go ahead, Kimberly.
Thankfully I have 20/20 vision, and I could see the screen says, "Are the Falcons legit Super Bowl contenders?" Daniel, I'm disappointed in you, my friend, because I did not want to have to disagree with you so early in the show. Like, I just got here.
Okay.
But you said no question, this is Super Bowl contender team. But yet you said, if these guys, if Matthew Judon, if this happens, you point out Kirk Cousins, a guy who's coming off a major injury. The same reason we look at Aaron Rodgers, granted they're not the same age, but we look at Aaron Rodgers and say, health is a huge factor here. Health is a huge factor with Kirk Cousins. He says he's going to be ready week 1. He's going to play. Cool. But I think the real answer is somewhere I'm going to split the baby. The answer is undetermined. Not yet. Too early to tell. Because, yes, Raheem Morris, this is his second shot at being a head coach. But he's a new head coach. You don't know what this team is going to look like. They have pieces, but we think Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, they got weapons. Part of the problem with the Falcons is those weapons weren't used effectively. And now we have a new head coach, we have new staff, and I think it's not yet, guys. We have no idea what the Falcons will look like.
See, I would disagree that there's no idea. Like, I've been somebody for 2 years who has been higher on Atlanta and had greater expectations for Atlanta if the quarterback play would take a step up. And the quarterback play never actually got there. But I think that I don't find a lot of flaws on this football team. I think they got a really good offensive line. I think they got 5 really good skill position players. Drake London, I've said this all offseason, is going to be a household national name. Bijan Robinson, I think in this offense, Zach Robinson, who's their new offensive coordinator, comes from Rams. I'm not going to say that he's Todd Gurley. I'm not going to say that. But I see him playing in a Todd Gurley-like role. Their defensive line, Grady Jarrett's really good. Ebiketie just coming on. That's why Judon's addition is such a big deal. And their secondary's really good now. Like, their secondary in a year, I'm telling you, Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons are 2 of the best I can go get the football safeties in the NFL. Judon can rush the passer, which is really their way. I just don't find a ton of flaw in the football team.
I'm with you, my friend, I'm with you. But for you to say there's no question, yeah, there is question. The only thing I will say is what makes me confident, the Falcons to me are the dark horse in the NFC because of that division.
The Atlanta Falcons have always been a team shrouded in potential but mired in frustration. For years, they've hovered in the space between mediocrity and brilliance, flirting with success but never fully committing. Now, with the arrival of a seasoned quarterback in Kirk Cousins, bolstered by key veteran signings like Judon and Simmons, the conversation has taken a seismic shift. Suddenly, the question on everyone's mind isn't just about making the playoffs, it's whether the Falcons can truly become Super Bowl contenders. And let me tell you, this debate is about as polarizing as it gets. First things first, Kirk Cousins. This isn't just a quarterback signing, this is a quarterback revolution for Atlanta. Cousins isn't just an upgrade, he's a stabilizing force. Atlanta has been a team plagued by inconsistency at the quarterback position for far too long. Cousins, despite his well-documented playoff struggles, is a proven, reliable force in the regular season. He's brought a sense of calm and assurance to an offense that was previously riddled with uncertainty. Let's be clear, when Cousins is on, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's elevated this team from a pretender to a legitimate threat. Then there's the defense. Adding players like Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons isn't just about shoring up weak spots, it's about transforming this defense into a unit that can impose its will. Judon's ability to rush the passer is invaluable, especially when paired with a stalwart like Grady Jarrett on the defensive line. This isn't just a defense that can hold its own, this is a defense that can dominate. And let's not forget the secondary. With players like Jesse Bates and Simmons, this is a group that can create turnovers, make big plays, and be the difference in close games. On the offensive side, the weapons are there, and they're not just average weapons. These are game-changing, highlight reel producing players. Bijan Robinson is a revelation. A back of his caliber doesn't come around often, and he has the potential to be one of the most explosive players in the league. Paired with Drake London, who is set to become a household name, and Kyle Pitts, one of the most dynamic tight ends in the game, this offense is scary. The offensive line is solid, and under the guidance of new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, this unit could reach heights we haven't seen in years. But here's the thing, as much as all of this sounds like a recipe for success, there's a dark cloud hanging over it all. 6 straight losing seasons. Let that sink in. 6 years of mediocrity. 6 years of coming up short. 6 years of unfulfilled potential. This isn't just a stat, it's a stigma. It's a weight that this team has to carry. And it's a weight that won't be lifted until they prove they can win consistently. The Falcons have been stuck in this cycle of hope and disappointment for far too long, and until they break that cycle, every bit of optimism will be met with skepticism. Now, let's get to the real elephant in the room, Kirk Cousins. Yes, he's consistent. Yes, he's talented. But when it comes to the postseason, this guy has been the definition of underwhelming. He's allergic to prosperity in January. Sure, he can get you to the playoffs, but can he win once he gets there? History says no. And that's a problem. Because for all the talent this team has, for all the potential they've shown, none of it matters if Cousins can't deliver when it matters most. And that's a huge gamble for this team to take. The NFC South is wide open. There's no denying that. The Falcons absolutely have a shot at winning the division and making the playoffs, but winning the division doesn't make you a Super Bowl contender. The playoffs are a different beast entirely, and until the Falcons prove they can handle that pressure, there will always be doubt. The potential is there, no question. But potential doesn't win championships. Execution does. And execution in the playoffs is something this team has yet to prove they can do. At the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing. Can the Falcons break the cycle? Can they finally live up to their potential and become the team they were meant to be? Or will they fall back into the same old patterns and end up as just another footnote in NFL history? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, the clock is ticking. This season is make or break for the Falcons. They have the talent, they have the opportunity. Now it's time to see if they can finally put it all together and make a run at the Super Bowl, because if they can't, we might be looking at another 6 years of unfulfilled potential,